Hello, and welcome to Everyday Creation, a show about lifting our vibes for ourselves and the world. I'm Kate Jones, here with Dr. Darcy Lord, a self love expert who's on a mission to help raise the consciousness of the planet. Darcy's enthusiasm and her talent for reminding people of their innate worthiness have made her a sought after speaker, trainer, and coach. She is the author of 52 Weeks of Relief and the upcoming Self Love is Your Path. Welcome to the show, Darcy.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Kate, for having me. I'm super, super honored and couldn't be more excited about participating in someone who's all about lifting the vibes for ourselves and the world. I think that's just beautiful.
Thank you. And I am so excited about having you on. I love
Thank you.
what you're an expert in. It is so great that you remind people of their innate worthiness.
Yeah.
That where self-love begins.
Yes, I get so excited about it. And it's so important because I think there's a good thing that we're starting to talk about it more on the planet about self-love, but a lot of times it gets equated to like our self-care lists, things about, I'll go get a massage or a facial, or it's time to try to eat better or meditate or work out. And I love all those things, but it turns out that self-love it's much more an inner job. So that relearning maybe for the first time or re-choosing to see our own innate worthiness, which is kind of what hatches our deservability. It's where it starts. It's an inner game.
That is a great
Oh,
explanation.
thank you. Yeah. And I think people can like sink their teeth into it because otherwise it's easier to just keep thinking I got to check off things on a self-care list. Where instead, if we go, oh no, it's an inner game of kind of holding myself in my own heart as precious and lovable and valuable and worthy. So it's that worthiness piece, innate worthiness. It's huge.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. So, how does self love help raise our collective consciousness?
Oh, and I know that you're an asker of that because you're so much about raising the vibration. And even the question itself, it just lights me up inside because it's hits our intuition as right in alignment. When you say that to someone like, oh, self-love can actually raise consciousness, I think embedded in our cellular memory, our spiritual beingness, we get it. But on the planet, it's kind of counter to what we've believed because we've heard things like, self-love is probably selfish. But the truth is, self-love is, and this is a strong statement, but I believe it, self-love is the only thing that is going to most gracefully and in Godspeed timing help us lift the consciousness of the planet. And that's because until we practice self-love, and it's not like a static thing, but until we work on practicing self-love, we won't do what we need to do to start living our higher purpose. So re-saying it backwards, it's self-love is the thing that will make us care about ourselves enough to do the sometimes hard and definitely scary and awesomely meaningful work of living our higher purpose. And the way we raise the consciousness of the planet, the collective consciousness, imagine if more and more people every day, more and more people started actually living their higher purpose, like living in alignment with what their souls, that juicy deliciousness that means things like abundance and love, and even your smile on your face right now. It's like when you do what you love to do. Self-love is the only thing that's going to help us break out of the sleepiness of kind of status quo to let us go, I care enough about my soul and how it's connected to all that is to live what I'm supposed to live, to do what's mine to do on the planet. So it's directly related to lifting the vibration of the planet.
How lovely.
Isn't that cool?
You have said there are four pillars of self
Yeah.
love. Would you mind sharing what they
Oh
are?
gosh, I would love to. And because I've played for a long time in the self-love piece, because I'm an ex-researcher also, I started seeing and noticing in audiences and classes and students that The theory of self-love could get in there, like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. But these pillars, they're like foundations for self-love that until we kind of get a grasp on those, it makes self-love be too airy-fairy and out there. The first pillar of self-love is exactly what you started this program with, which is innate worthiness. If we don't get it at some part of our being, that while we mess up as humans all the time, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. So many people have heard that now, but to really get that, to go, I can mess up all I want. And sometimes I'm a really great human, but either way, I am innately worthy as this amazing, we're literally spiritual beings of love, of light. We're expansive beings. We can never not be. So the first thing is to literally go, this game that we play in our head that goes, I'm probably not worthy because I'm not perfect, because I didn't do it good enough. So when we go like this, I'm not perfect as a human, and I'm a perfect, beautiful, blessed, infinitely worthy spiritual being. I can never not be that. So the first pillar is, period, the end. I am infinitely worthy. So innate worthiness is the first leg of that chair to sit on. The second one is it's a choice. And what's so important about that is people are waiting around like we wait until we feel like we're good enough. We wait till we check off the list. We wait until we go, well, as soon as I'm better or more perfect or somebody else loves me better, or until the whole world is doing it first. And it's awesome to go, look, it's just a choice. The same way as if I go, I don't know how to do a new language. It's not supposed to feel comfortable. It's new. So the second pillar is it's a choice. The third that's so important is it's a practice. And that self-love as a practice takes off the self-criticism that goes, well, I'm not doing it perfectly. I'm not doing the humanness perfectly, so I must be messing up. And you go, no, it's like eating or our spiritual traditions of meditating or working out. There's no getting it done. There's no getting it done. It's a practice. And then the fourth one that's lovely is it's called as to others, to yourself. So when you just go, I don't know what to do with it, look at how you treat others that you love and just let it gently go, oh, okay. As to others, to myself. There you go. Those are the four pillars.
All right. There are
Yeah.
also 5 principles for self love practice.
Yes.
So here we get into the everyday kind of thing that we can do.
Yes. And how do we do that? And bless you, what you said was the 5 principles for self-love practice. And I named it that way on purpose so that we don't just call it the 5 principles of self-love, because that again makes it kind of be like it's this static thing. And what I love about these things that I created is that we all have these really bright, beautiful minds, and self-love in theory, I think we latch onto it like, okay, we're all intelligent now and we get it that us, it's the whole thing about when you fly and the stewardess, the flight attendant, sorry, they say, put the oxygen mask, it's got to go on us first. So we kind of get it in theory, like when my bucket is filled up, then I'm better out in the world. But because I said I'm an ex-researcher and I still, do research with clients and students and audiences, one of the biggest things people said is it gets in the way, it's an obstacle to self-love, is people have literally said, I really don't know how to do it. I don't know what that means. So the 5 principles help you take any day of the week. You can pick any of these and you can just put it into practice. So the first one is to care about how you feel. And that sounds just so like, oh, okay, I'll care about how I feel. But can I tell a quick story about that one?
Absolutely.
So, a good friend of mine who is an amazing healer, such a powerful being on the planet. And, she and I were talking about this, about how lifting the vibration has to start with us putting ourselves into this circle of kindness. Because otherwise, we're all out there teaching good things, but feeling yucky. And I said, I am just so sure that the very first principle for self-love practices, we actually have to become aware of and care about how we feel, especially emotionally and physically. And we were talking about that. And she said, Darcy, just the other day, her son, he was out running. He's a runner. She knows he's kind of a type A sort of guy. And as he was running, somebody drove by in a car that he thought the music was unsatisfactory and too loud. And so he yelled something. Her son yelled something at a passing car, and the car stopped, and the guy got out and threw punches at my friend's son. Yeah, it was really bad, and then drove off. Now, there was no weapon. It was just hands, fists, but it was both people, angry words, angry, unsatisfied. He's okay. So that's why I can tell the story. But what she said was just so telling. And she said, Darcy, my son is just angry all the time and he doesn't even know it. And then she goes, and Darcy, do you know what? I think he wouldn't care, even if he did know it. So, this thing about our systems on the planet right now having a default setting of stress or anger or sadness or depression that we just kind of go, I don't know, it's the way it is. And so, the first thing is to care about how we feel the same way as if someone that you love was right in front of you. If that man, I know he has a little girl, and if she said, Daddy, I hurt, or I feel bad, or I'm mad, can you help me? I have goosebumps. I know for sure he would scoop her up and be like, what can we do? How can we shift you? So, us doing that for us, caring about how we feel. Negative emotions are not bad, they're part of our life, but it is in our capability to shift those. So, the first principle of self love practice is to care about how you feel and then kind of rescue yourself when you're ready to be done. You were going to say something. Go ahead.
Just that is incredibly powerful.
It is. It is, because when we drive around and we look at people, have you noticed people like on the road when you're driving and you can feel it? It's like almost, I say this in quotes, but almost they want to be mad. And nobody wants to be mad, but we get so used to that. That's sort of our brain default. So literally, the first principle of self-love is we have to decide we care about how we feel. That way, if I'm sad or anxious, or if I'm watching the news, or if I'm watching other people who are angry, and I get this like, oh, I don't want it to be like this. I get to start with myself first. It's possible for me to be the place where love and light starts. Anyway, so
Yes.
that's the first principle for practice. And there's some very specific things you can do pretty easily to shift any of that. That's first principle. Can I do the second one?
Absolutely. Go
All right.
ahead.
So the second principle
These are
for
so
self-love.
good.
Thank you. And it's cool because it lets us click in like, oh my gosh, there are times that I kind of want to have a pity party or be tired or mad.
Of
But then
course,
when I
you're
go,
human.
yes. And sometimes it serves us to give richness and meaning and depth, but it's cool to be able to go, oh my goodness, but it's in my power to shift that. And a way I can love me is just like, again, as to others, to yourself. If somebody goes, I hurt, can you help me? I'd go, yeah, come on, let's do that. So the second one, it's kind of in alignment with that. The second one is so powerful, and it's make your own inner guidance your highest authority. Ooh, and that's that thing about um, we cannot not hear that which is connected to our own highest and best. And for a lot of people, those are spiritual words like the innermost voice, the most high God, mother, father, divine, infinite spirit. And for some people, it's more like, nope, it's my heart's, highest intelligence, or it's the message from the universe, the angels and teachers and guides. We have been kind of shaken, lulled to sleep in our culture on using other people for our authority. Sometimes it was religious or cultural tradition. Sometimes our significant others, our spouses, sometimes our bosses and our teachers. And to really say your own inner guidance, to make that your highest authority, there's almost nothing more loving you can do than do that. And when I work with clients, and very often they'll be like, I don't really know what that means, like, what if I don't hear my guidance? And I'll be like, oh, okay. So, did you ever have an intuition lately in the last 3 days that you should pick up the eggs at the store when your head already thinks you have it? And you're like, oh yeah, that happens a lot. Yeah, that's your inner guidance. And then what about the kind of bigger ones that say, I know you don't know how to do this, but it's time to let that stuff go about something that's been holding you down. And one really cool way to kind of access those things is really just to very pragmatically kind of go, hey, what's your soul been asking you to do lately? Or what's something the universe is wanting you to do? And I've never had anybody ever, even the people that go, I don't know about my inner guidance, not be able to access, like, oh, you mean those little niggles or the nudges or the inklings? I'm like, oh, yeah. And you're smiling. So do you listen? Do you feel those a
Uh,
lot? Do you
Oh,
kind of notice those?
absolutely. Just even the times you can get into a situation and you can feel that it's welcoming or not welcoming.
Oh,
And, and I remember that all the way back, well, to my, 20s, just realizing I got to get out of here.
oh,
And
and bless you for following that. And so what's cool is there's a lot of people who kind of tried to squish that out, because if you had said like this, something doesn't feel right, something feels off, there are obviously not you, not me, you listen to it, but there's a lot of people surrounded so much by just, the 5 sense only people that are like, well, that's silly, that's dumb, you don't have any evidence for that. But that internal evidence about it is so strong,
yeah.
right?
Yes, it is so strong, and it's so wonderful to have it
It
and
is.
to
And
rely on it.
right. And what's cool is, and you know this because you teach about the vibes, you teach about doing things to help us and, the world kind of like lift up a little bit. And the beautiful thing is, the more we're willing to take little teeny steps to try to listen, just listen and trust. I'm saying it bigger. I'm saying make that your highest authority. But we can get there just by the teeny little nudges that go, oh, go a different way to the store today. Or you were going to wait and call your person later, but you get that like, oop, call them right now. The more we listen to it, it's kind of like an experiment, and life starts getting really good. And then you go, oh, the more we do that. I had my son who's, as I'm recording this, is now, a grown-ish man. He's at 20. And we did a thing always with him since the time he was a little kid. And we would just go, hey, what's your inner guidance say? Just check on your inner guidance. And there's something about the more you know it's available, the more you follow it. And the more you follow it, the louder it gets. But even just the intention to go, okay, I'm going to start to make my inner guidance worthy of being my authority, it'll start to grow and get bigger. So that's the second principle for self-love practice, is just listening to the inner guidance. And then just one piece of that, our brain gets really nervous, like, wait, that's going to be really selfish. So then you won't care about any other people. But our inner guidance, yours and mine and everybody listening, the mantra of our own inner guidance is the highest and best for all concerned, because it gets it that we are what we all in theory know. We're intimately, intricately connected to everyone. There's one big field of consciousness. So that's
Yes.
the second principle.
Okay. This is good
Third, can I
stuff,
go on?
Darcy.
I'll zip you through the last three.
All
The
right.
third principle for self-love practice is offer yourself kind words and kind actions. Just that. Like, if you imagine, when we look at each other and when we're here and when we pass somebody, even if I don't know somebody, we look in the eyes and we kind of do a nod. And even if I'm having a bad day, and even if it's not a favorite person of mine, most of the time we offer some sort of kind word like, hey, how you doing today? I hope, I hope you have a good day. I hope you're feeling good. And also kind actions like a little, head nod, or we've all gotten up when we're tired to help fix something for somebody, and we're so good, aren't we, about sort of giving other people a hand. And it's not rocket science, but it's really important principle to go, just do that for you. Offer yourself kind words and kind actions. And I'll just give the audience as they're listening, one beautiful way to do that that can bypass the inner critic, the, kind of negative self-talk pieces, is we can look in the mirror and we can just go like this. Hey, I hope something good happens to you today. And it's
Oh,
so
that's
silly.
cool.
Isn't that beautiful? Because
Yes.
we can say that to somebody, and what's awesome is if you're doing mirror work and you're doing self-love, a lot of times our committee kind of goes, hold on, I'm not going to do it if it's too weird. And what's beautiful is to just look in your eyeballs and go, hey, I hope something good happens to you today. Because it's not trying to say like, I just love you and I think you're the best thing ever and you deserve the very best in life, which I think are also great affirmations and I use them. But one way to just offer yourself kind words and kind actions is that baby little piece that goes, hey, I hope something good happens to you today. So that principle is lovely. Any particular thing you think of when you think of what's a kind word or a kind action that maybe you usually give to somebody else that maybe, you could do to you?
Well, actually, I've been working for quite some time on some affirmations
Oh,
that,
beautiful.
and Louise Hay affirmations you have mentioned
Oh,
her. And, but one of the things is, I am the loving director of my life.
I am the loving director of my life.
It's an
Mm,
adaptation of a Louise Hay
I
affirmation.
love Louise Hay. She started me out on this whole journey and feel the power in that thing when you say
Yes.
that. I am the loving director. And so just taking the effort, is that weird that it's effort or the intention to just offer ourselves kind words and kind actions? It's huge. And it's a way to get our head out of like, I don't know how to love myself. Well, that's one little baby piece. Do a kind word, a kind act. Thank you for sharing that
Oh,
affirmation with me. That's gorgeous
sure.
and powerful, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I like it.
I love it. And so what you again showed and all your listeners, I'm sure we're so used to it. It's like if somebody says, hey, I need some help, can you help me? It's so easy for us to give out, like me saying, hey, is there something that you think could be beneficial to me? And you just blurped it right out and it's so beneficial. And then to go, oh, we could do those same things for us. And it totally starts retraining the brain, which is cool, and starts shifting the default setting. And that leads into the fourth principle for self-love practice. And what's cool is these are all like spokes of a wheel. You don't like have to start with one or the other, whatever kind of resonates. And you go, well, that one I think I could do. Just play and start with that one. So the fourth one is, this is really good. Practice self-compassion and self-celebration. And it, again, that as to others to yourself, if somebody you know is having a rough day, think of what you might do for them. Maybe you just kind of put your hand on their shoulder and squeeze it, or maybe you'd go, I'm sorry you're having a rough day, or that sucks. I'm sorry that happened. And if somebody had something good happen, if you came to me and said, Darce, I did this cool new thing, our tendency is to want to celebrate that for you and go, oh my God, rock on, you're awesome. So the fourth principle for self-love practice is just to do that ourselves.
Have a party
When, say it
with
again.
ourselves.
It is, it's hysterical, right? Like, yeah, I did that. I'm awesome. And both sides. And the cool thing about both sides, the self-compassion and the self-celebration is that means I can do that principle no matter if I'm having a good day or a crappy day. So if I'm having a good day, I can literally just go like this. Well done, Darcy. Good job. Just that. Like, well done. You freaking got through a day. And if something feels yucky, like even right now, all your listeners, like we can just think of a time that maybe I felt tired or really truly sad or scared, or I messed something up really bad, or maybe I messed something up little. So I'm flogging myself and I'm feeling self-critical. And then just like we get aware, because remember the first principle is we have to know and care about how we feel. And then when I like, yeah, ew, we can just put our hand on our heart and just go, hey, I'm sorry. I'm just sorry that feels yucky. And it just, how is your experience when you do that? If you would just,
It's so beautiful because you just all of a sudden can get calmer and not, beat up on you. You can at least stop beating up on yourself.
right. And what's brilliant about that small piece is it kind of puts the bigger aspect of me back in charge and the hand on the heart. And even it's also then means I named kind of the feeling. Remember about you have to know and care about how you feel. And if it's like, that feels yucky, It does. It slows us down. It shifts our nervous system into more of the parasympathetic, like real sciencey things happen. And it opens our heart to us a little bit. So even if people are like, I don't know, it's not normally what I do. Cool. Self-love is just a new language. Remember, it's just new. It's a choice and it's a practice. And then the last one, the fifth principle for self-love practice. So we've done, you got to know and care about how you feel, make your inner guidance your highest authority, offer yourself kind words and kind actions, practice self-compassion and that real joyful self-celebration. And then the fifth principle for self-love practice is hold yourself accountable and let yourself off the hook.
I love that.
Tell me why. What kind of resonates?
Taking responsibility for what you've said, what you've done, whatever, your thoughts, whatever it is,
Yeah.
even from the past or the present, or even what you're thinking of for the future.
Ooh,
And
right.
and then, coming back and saying, okay, it's all right that I thought those things. It's all right that I said those things. It's all right that I did those things. Now I can go on with a more higher consciousness or whatever, you want to say about that.
And you said that perfectly, which is the balance of both of them. The whole point is to then kind of go, what from there? What from there? And then I was working with I go in and I still work inside organizations. I get called in to do trainings. That's part of what I do. And there was a woman who was high up in leadership of a big company, and they asked me to come in and do the 5 principles for self-love practice with their leadership team, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing that they even cared about that. And she said, Darce, they all make sense. I'm resonating. And she said, but this is the one. I can feel myself want always to stay on the side of hold myself accountable instead of this thing about let myself off the hook. And what's so beautiful is that all the principles work together. So when we are becoming aligned with listening to our own inner guidance as highest authority, she said, I can actually tell when I'm going too far, too much. I'm beating up on myself and it's not working anymore. She said, I literally can feel it. But until you go, oh, wait a minute, both of those things are important. And there's going to be times when my inner guidance goes like this: get thee off your butt, get it done, even if I'm tired or scared. And so that's how it's like, yes, like you said, maybe I messed something up. Maybe I dropped the ball on something. Maybe it is my turn to say, I messed this up. I want to make amends. Or maybe it's time to be accountable with like, what's your work to do out in the world? What's yours to do out in the world? Get it done. Tiny baby step, tiny baby step. But the other side, I'm telling you, is also so true. And sometimes, have you had a thing that you're working on and you're like wrestling it energetically to the ground? Have you ever had that?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
it's like I can feel it. Like I'm like, "Oh my God," but it's almost like a train. Like I'm getting it done. And it's that kind of old school mentality about no pain, no gain. And very often, if we're sort of tuning in, like, hold on, if what I want is to really complete this, if I want to raise my vibration, which your whole podcast is about, if I literally want to do that for myself and for the world, what do I do here? And again, so then you take that inner guidance, and sometimes it goes like this: let that go. And we'll know when it's right. Man, there's times that I wish it says, just let it go. I just want to just lay in my bed or feel anxious about something or stick my hands and fingers in my ears. And sometimes it goes like this: no, sweetheart, be accountable and get the work done right now. And other times it goes like this: close your computer. More later, not right now. And like you said, if I messed up, it's going to go like this: you were doing your best. You may be called to shift and make amends or change or do something new, but we have got to learn to let ourselves off the hook. The same way as if a little kid was trying to walk and they fell down, we wouldn't just say, get up, stupid. Dude, we'd be like, okay, you're working at it. And then you're, kind of messing a thing up and you're kind of resting and playing for a while. Both of them, holding ourselves accountable and really letting ourselves off the hook the same way we would for other people. And sometimes I'd love on, my kid and my significant other and my mom, and I'd go, you guys, come on. This is your work to do. And sometimes I go, this is not yours right now. Let it go. And there's such relief in the soul about that.
Yes. Yes. So the logical question to me is, Darcy, what happens when we don't practice self-love?
That's a really good question, and it's important. And it's a slippery slope of a question because our negative inner committee wants to come in all the time and tell us that we're already bad or wrong or not doing it right. So I'm going to preface the answer by going like this. We're going to start with the opposite end. What happens when we do practice self-love? And again, I love your question. You didn't say when you don't love yourself. You said when you don't practice self-love, because there's nobody who's totally devoid of self-love. Weirdly, there's not. Even people who feel really bad about themselves. And we're also not totally like, ta-da, we've made it.
Well, we have that will to survive.
Right.
So right there, that
That's
is
right.
self-love.
It's true. Even people who are saying, I never take care of myself. I don't. I go, look, you're eating something, even if you don't love the choices. You're sleeping some, even if you feel like you have total insomnia or um, most of us, we're sleeping somewhere. There are those survival things. And so we can all breathe and take a breath and go, I'm already to some extent practicing self-love. I'm not doing anything wrong here. Nothing bad is going on. And oh, yeah, I can increase the practice of self-love. And so to answer the question about what happens when we don't, I'm going to start with the opposite, which goes, wow, what happens when we have a big, full practice of self-love? And the answer is literally your life works. And I don't mean in the airy fairy, just in the virtual spiritual realms. I mean, literally. Think about stuff we actually care about, our weight and our health and our money and our businesses and our work life and the people and our relationships to all of that and our spiritual connection and how much meaning and purpose we feel. So all the things we care about, I truly want to say our life works to the extent that we're practicing self-love. No matter where we plopped onto the planet, some people plopped in with way less habit and nesting of self-love and worthiness and honoring, and some started way up the kind of path on that. But the practice goes, as I am practicing it more, my life works more. It just does. And so what happens when we don't? Our life doesn't work in some areas, at least to the level we want them to. And even yours in my face right now, that like, ooh, it's kind of a squishy, hard thing to talk about. Number one, because we can feel it. We can feel the truth of it, like, oh crap. This is my doing of myself, because at some point in our spiritual fabric of our being, we understand that we are powerful, conscious co-creators of our experience and the world that we experience, literally my life and what I see that comes to me. But the piece that's wildly important is to go, the one rule, I'm going to say it, the rule of self-love, learning and practicing is to never, ever use it, ever, to criticize or flog ourselves, ever. So if the true answer is what happens when we don't practice self-love is my life just doesn't work at all to the extent that it could. And if I go, so you're telling me that it's my fault, and I'm not using the word fault, but I am saying it's our responsibility. It is our delicious, empowered responsibility to go. If there's any of those things, health, wealth, love, perfect self-expression, and then the added time, spiritual connection, if there's any of those that I want bigger and juicier and better, I'm telling you truly that the first job is to practice self-love, because that's what's going to hatch the deservability that lets us do what so many of us are trying to do, which is to go, let's love our life enough to help uplift the entire consciousness of the planet. But if I don't practice caring about myself, and again, it's a practice and it's a choice, I could already love myself a lot, and I could already love myself hardly any at all. And anywhere on that spectrum, what happens when I start practicing intentionally baby action steps, my life just gets better and better.
Yes. And we are so powerful that if we tell ourselves, I'm so this or I'm so that in a derogatory
Yes.
manner, then okay, whatever, the body will conform to what you say, or your mind will conform to what you say, or whatever, the circumstances will conform to it
Yeah.
because we are
Yes.
that powerful.
Oh my gosh, bless you for saying that. And all three of those things, literally, the body starts to believe it, the brain starts to believe it, and then we attract in the circumstances that match our beliefs. That's what's
Because
so
we're
juicy.
magnets.
We we are, we're big fat magnets for exactly what, and whether I believe that I'm a lowly worm or whether I believe I'm infinitely worthy of love and light, because that's what I am, we literally attract back to us everything that matches the belief systems.
Yes.
That's why it matters so much that we care about how we feel, because how I'm feeling is going to let me know what beliefs I'm having right now. Oh, it's so cool that you know this and that you're getting the word out to the world by all these people that you're interviewing and having all this great stuff out to your audience, and you yourself as not just an interviewer but as a teacher of these things.
Well, thank you. That's
You
very
are.
nice of you to say.
Well, it feels so much better to live that way, and then we
Oh,
literally start to hatch more of our power.
we're happier.
We
We're
are.
happier. We're happier when we are kind enough to ourselves to when, and this actually happened 2 or 3 weeks
Tell me.
ago when I was out with friends, um, to then feel comfortable to approach someone and who is, talking to her significant other. And but she had the most beautiful, attractive, just appealing haircut.
Yeah.
And I went to the restroom, came back, and I veered over to where she was. And I said, "Excuse me, we just really love your hair." Because we talked, a couple other friends I was with said the same thing.
Yes.
And I had the nicest conversation with her and her, I don't know, probably husband. I don't know. We
Yeah.
had this whole conversation, and the entire day I was happier. I was happy. I was just on this, I don't mean that I was gloomy before. I was just,
Right.
I was a few steps up even.
Yes.
And it's just so putting it out there, you're also being kind to yourself, allowing yourself to do that
Yeah.
because all of a sudden it just completely comes back and it's this whole thing about the vibes.
And what a brilliant story and how perfectly it fits with all this. Because one, remember when you said, it does self love help lift the collective consciousness? If you hadn't already been feeling good about yourself, which you know about doing kind words and actions to you, you practice this stuff. If you had been feeling the way a lot of people feel, which is kind of less than, I'm not quite good enough, I'm kind of smaller, you would have kept that to yourself. So the fact that you could already feel that, like you were feeling happy, you were feeling good, which is such a piece of practicing self-love, because it's you care how you feel. So you've been doing things that actually lift your own vibration. And then you actually, because you were all filled up in your own, you actually were willing again to listen, because that was an inner guidance thing that said, go say that to her. And you followed it instead of keeping that quiet. It's that whole old school religious thing about don't keep your light under a bushel. And the more
Yes,
you
that's a
love
good
yourself,
one.
that's because if you had been feeling bad about yourself, if
Oh
you had
yeah,
been
you
feeling
can't do
tired, there, do you see?
yeah,
And
you
all of
can't
us
do
do
it.
that. We're like, oh
Yeah.
God, no, I never would have done that. So
Yes.
literally you being in the space of feeling your own lightness of being, which is the whole piece of self-love. You went over there, you uplifted her day. And then there's a very good chance because it bings, that the energies, it like bings from one person to the other. And then maybe she'll kind of pay that forward because she's feeling good. So that
Yes.
story was perfect. It's how
Oh,
this whole thing
good. Thank
works.
you. Well, do you want to shift gears just for a moment?
Oh, sure.
Because we want to talk about your credentials
Oh,
and what you bring to this work.
okay.
And I think that's really important. So,
Yeah.
Your credentials include a PhD in somatic education from the
Yeah.
Ohio State University.
Yeah.
What does
Yeah.
somatic education involve anyway?
Yeah, good question. It gave me the perfect foundation for doing this work. Somatic education literally means us as integrated holistic beings. So we talked about it as the mind body spirit connection. And the fact that at a Big Ten university, we got to have a program that talked about the mind body and the mind body spirit connection. And the things that you talk about a lot, this being able to feel vibes and shifting things. And we literally, whether we know it or not, we are integrated beings where we bring a very human physicalness. We also are in total charge of our thoughts and our thinking. We're also an emotional body, and also then whatever is kind of this kind of transcendent vibration of we're a part of the whole consciousness. And what's fun is back when I was there, when I wanted to do happiness and self love, when you're getting ready to do research, there already has to be pieces of it out there to be able to kind of follow on it. So, what I was allowed to do was called subjective well being, which is where all the positive psychology and happiness research stemmed from, which is just blessed. And it's also where a lot of the heart math and stress reduction and resiliency pieces, that was already there. So, we kind of stood on that. So the necessity and the blessedness of being able to connect and care about the intellect, the mind, and what it's saying, but also with what's going on with this beautiful body of ours, and starting to honor the emotions and how all of those things work together. It was the perfect foundation for doing stress reduction work and self-care, because I we had to talk about self-care before we were allowed to talk about self-love, in terms of being able to get it into the masses a little bit more. And so from the mind body connection with my doctorate with somatic education, I did a lot with subjective well-being and stress reduction, and then shifting into talking about, with less apology, about happiness and resilience. And the thing that somatic education really helped us do, psychology had a history of only talking about, and this isn't subjective, this is their history was taking that which was really on the depleting end and trying to get us back to status quo. So it was taking a lot of the, crisis mode things, a lot of the very, I just want to stop with that. So the real yucky thing, people who were way on the other end of well-being,
Right.
way opposite, and kind of getting us back to status quo. That's all we were like allowed to do. That's all that was. And then it started moving into like, wait a minute, what about thriving? What about the other side of that? And so it sort of helped. That was another foundation, positive psychology, which is now everywhere. And for people who like this stuff, positive psychology is a much more direct route to it. If you want, more education or learning, somatic education is lovely. Not even sure it was a very small part at Ohio State. The
Okay.
advisor
And that
has
was when did you do that?
I got my doctorate. I graduated in 2002.
Okay.
And so
So things changed a lot since then.
it has, because now we don't really have to talk about somatic education. We can talk about the mind body connection, which was growing anyway. And now the big thing is to really talk about love and, positive psychology. And the self love piece is one of the movements I'm helping. I'm getting this thing started, because no more about self love. We can only talk about it individually. There are conscious entrepreneurs out all over the place. There are conscious business owners that understand that the bottom line and us taking care of ourselves actually help uplift each other.
Oh,
So,
the world is changing.
yes, and this is sometimes not a hugely popular belief, but here's my belief. My belief is we are wildly, wildly raising the consciousness toward more and more love. And what looks like us going in the backwards direction, I think it's literally lifting off a covering so that we can
Yes.
shine light on, you see
On the
that,
into the
on low
gunk.
vibrations.
It's like digging into the bathroom drain, and you're going,
Yes.
yeah, like the sink,
Yes.
and bring out all this stuff that's used to be soap or whatever, and it's like, oh, but it's also strangely so satisfying to me. The more I get out of there, the better.
Yes. And I really think that's true. And so what's nice is you and I, people like you and I, and all your listeners, we're not going to say everything's only just good. There are humans suffering. There's crap going on. But I truly, truly feel like our souls, all of us, we're participating in that, what looks like the crap, the pain and the anger and the wars and that which looks like really low vibration.
Divisiveness,
Say,
lot
oh,
the
divisiveness. Yes, so
divisiveness,
much
a lot
fear,
of
so
that.
much feeling like we don't have, security in all the ways we want it. But I think it's popping up so that it can be healed and lifted up. Just, oh man, I love the drain thing. I've never heard it like that. That was a perfect metaphor to
Thank
clean
you.
it out.
Yep. And it's a practice because you can't just do it once.
Right. Right.
You have to keep
And if we
doing
stay,
the drain.
and if we stay just staring at the gunk, digging in it, it's not going to get it any better. So there's, what is my job? How do I clean that off, the nasty little, what's that thing called, the drain, the little sink stopper,
Yeah.
the sink
Yes.
stopper?
Oh,
Like,
yes.
what's my job? How do I
Old
get that?
toothbrushes are really good for that.
Ooh.
Like clean. I would love to do drains. Cleaning off.
But then do you know what that
It's so
means?
sad.
No, it's not sad. It's awesome. That means that because that's the thing that resonates with you. That means that every one of your podcast episodes, whether you're interviewing somebody or you're doing your own teaching, that means that is your little, and not so little, that's your toothbrush.
Yeah. Yes.
Do you know what I mean? That's your way to
Uh-huh.
help. You're like, I'm doing this. I'm part of this.
But it's not one I use anymore to brush my teeth. That would be gross.
No, of course, no. But I mean, the podcast is the way, is
I know. No, I'm
the
kidding.
toothbrush to do that.
I'm
Oh,
just making a joke.
ew, that would be so gross.
Okay.
But we digressed.
Yes, just slightly. I want to give some of the other highlights of your career.
All right.
You received an award for teaching excellence from Ohio State. You weren't teaching excellence, it was for teaching excellence.
Yeah.
Served as director of an integrative healing arts center specializing in personal spiritual growth. Contributed to groundbreaking research with Ohio State's Complementary Health Initiative pilot project, as well as a worksite positivity study published in a peer-reviewed journal. Founded programs that uplift. About that last one, would
Yeah.
you please explain programs that uplift?
Oh, sure. And thank you so much for naming those other good things that I've done. I've been honored to do work that makes me and others feel better. And that's why I founded Programs That Uplift. It's a business where we offer classes, trainings, programs, resources, and coaching. And all of it is wrapped around empowering individuals and audiences to love themselves and live their higher purpose. And the way we do that is always by focusing on what I call the threefold path. And one is, we could guess it, self-love. And the practice, it's these practices, practicing self-love, practicing our own inner guidance, and practicing intentional manifestation. As you already know, we manifest all the time, but intentionally doing it or co-creating. Because my gigantic belief is, as all of us participate in self-love and inner guidance and consciously creating, manifesting the lives we want, that's literally how we live our higher purpose. We literally can help shift the planet. And
Yes.
so all of my programs, some of them are speeches, some of them are, I have books and I have programs and I have coaching, and all of it is about uplifting.
Is it purely business that you coach bit in the workplace, or do you also do outside of the business, outside of the workplace?
Well, I used to work from inside businesses. Now I am my own. I'm a solopreneur. And so Programs That Uplift is my business. And so what I do is I take programs and speeches and I go into audiences and I give, I'm a keynote inspirational speaker. And so I do that. And I go into businesses and give them trainings. And I do that in person and I do it online. And what's so exciting now is that more and more businesses are starting to go, of course, how my people feel matters. So that some of the trainings I do are to go into businesses and into groups. Some are to go into conferences. And I also have my own online group of it's an audience who I give online courses to. So I'm an online entrepreneur, and I will always continue to do the speaking and training piece. And I'm
Okay.
an author as well. And so they kind of go together nicely. So the three parts of Programs That Uplift are, the author piece, and the other is the professional speaker and trainer. And the other is the online entrepreneur and coach. Most of my coaching I do online. Sometimes some of the leadership asks for a little bit of one-on-one, and I do that too. But just getting this work out there into saying, um, it's your birthright to be happy. It's your birthright to feel good. It's your birthright to live your higher purpose. Literally, so since it's your birthright, it's actually you're not just allowed, it's your responsibility. And
Yes.
more people are kind of going, that looks good to me. And now we're having some business leadership go, come on in and kind of teach that to even this group of people, which is exciting because we used to have to kind of be quiet about this. What we used to call the kind of airy fairy or woo woo stuff is now it's like, well, this is just intelligent, and it grows our bottom line, it grows our productivity, it grows our satisfaction, it grows our happiness.
Absolutely. Wow. So the next logical question is, how
Ooh.
best do people find you to learn
Oh,
more
yes,
about your
please.
work and
Yeah.
perhaps get in touch?
I would love that. If any of this resonates with you, the first thing I want to say is no matter how you do it, continue to start playing with your own self-love and listen to your own inner guidance about who and what and where, what sort of resources are helpful. They can go to my website. It's just drdarcylord.com. So it's DRDARCYLORD.com. And there is a thing I on purpose put there that is a lovely PDF gift of the 5 principles for self-love practice. Each of those principles has one or two very small, very doable action steps, and it would be my honor if you go there to get that.
And that's
And
free. You can just
oh yeah,
anyone
it's free. Yep. And
down.
what
Is
they'll
it a
get with that
downloaded?
is they will also be added to my email list where I do once a week. It's called the Monday Message from the Universe. And people have told me that's one of the most important things I do. It's literally about a 2 sentence thing, and it'll every Monday you'll get it in your inbox. And then about once a week, I do some other kind of uplifting thing. When I have upcoming programs, I let people know about that as well. But the gift is free. You just put in your first name and your email, and I would love to have you. And regardless of where you start doing this more, I want to say to you, whoever's listening and hearing this, self love is your most important job. It is your birthright to be wildly, brilliantly happy and in love with your life. And if you're hearing this, it means that you are one of the front runners to sort of help wake up the rest of the planet as well. So, yeah, please come find me anytime. I have a lot of free stuff out there, and I have a YouTube channel, and just find me at drdarcylord.com, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Terrific. Thank you so much. This
I
has been an incredible conversation. One wants to be in your sphere.
I appreciate that. And I so appreciate, I'm truly honored and so happy that you let me come and talk with you today. What you're doing with your podcast is so, so important. And it goes right in line with more and more people that you're attracting and that we're all attracting, which is more upliftment, more higher vibration, more love, more fun, more happiness, more joy. And so I'm wildly honored that you let me come and talk to you today. Thank you so
Well,
much.
and thank you, Darcy. This is Kate Jones asking our listeners to please spread the love by sharing this episode with others.